So the year was 1994, the sitcom Friends just aired on NBC, and the Super Nintendo Entertainment System was selling like hotcakes. And it's also the year that I was born, but while I was too busy becoming human, something else incredible happened. Final Fantasy VI released for the Super Nintendo. And for the first time in the series, Sakaguchi will not be directing this game. He instead will be the producer. Instead, it was directed by Yoshinori Katase and Hiroyuki Ito. And Yoshitaka Amano returns as character designer and concept artist. His art is very, very beautiful. I love it so much. By the way, I play Final Fantasy VI through the Pixel Remaster for the Switch. With the Pixel Remaster, now it's easier than ever to get your hands on these classics, and was a good opportunity for me to play older Final Fantasy games. Now I did skip 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and I just went straight to 6 basically, but I plan on getting to the other 5 eventually. Going in as someone who is not big in retro games, my perceived notion of this game is, why would I play something that old? If anything, I was expecting this game to be mid, but man was I surprised. And even in 2023, it really impressed me. Alright, so without further ado, let's get to the review of Final Fantasy VI. Final Fantasy VI is set in a steampunk world. Immediately, the game shows you that it's veering away from its medieval roots to a world that's more akin to the Industrial Revolution.
All ready-made in tons and carload lots, enough for tens, thousands, millions, faster and faster, better and better.
History aside, you control a multitude of characters in this game. However, it does not seem that way at first, because you initially control Terra, who is a soldier for the Gestalt Empire who has been brainwashed to do their bidding. Along with the other soldiers, they set course for Narshi, a mining town that has a frozen Esper in their mines. Once they arrive, Terra and the Esper have a sudden reaction, knocking Terra unconscious and killing the soldiers around her. Once woken up, Terra has reignited control of herself. She then joins a group of rebels known as the Returners. Their mission revolves into a desperate struggle against the nefarious machinations of the Empire. All in all though, this game had a great intro, the visuals are beautiful, and the beginning part is very iconic for a lot of Final Fantasy fans. And this must have been a groundbreaking game in 1994. Even though the visuals are not as modern standards, it's still really good and beautiful for its time, and it leaves you wanting more. But arguably, the most impressive thing that Final Fantasy VI has to offer is the characters. Each character has a backstory that is meticulously crafted, and they all have their different journeys and wants and needs that really breathe light into the pixelated sprites. Terra's journey from a lost soul to a woman discovering the true extent of her powers is the protagonist's tale of self-discovery and acceptance. Or Loki. I call him Loki because, I don't know, that name fits better, but for this video, I'm just gonna say Loki so nobody gets confused. Or Loki, who failed to protect his lover Rachel, which motivates him to go out of his way to save Terra and Celeste. Also, he's a bit of a womanizer. These characters and many more form together a narrative that resonates with the players on a deeply personal level. They did the characters so good that any of them can practically be the main character, which is really cool. And that's something I want to talk about. I love how Final Fantasy VI doesn't really have a main protagonist. You would think it's Terra, and you wouldn't be wrong about that, but you could say that for every character, because there are a lot of points where you don't have all the crew together and you had to take control of one character. So I didn't really get the feeling like there was a protagonist. It felt like the whole party was basically the protagonist in a way, which is really cool. I love when games do that, when you get to control multiple characters because it gives you a different perspective and it's a very interesting way to tell the story. Now, some characters are not written as well. It's basically more of the side characters that you might get. I feel like those characters, the optional ones, are not done really great, and I understand that because they're optional. Most people are not going to encounter them or want to recruit them, so they kind of didn't really focus on their characterization. They just focused on the main crew. So here are the list of the characters that I enjoyed the most. My favorite character is Tara. I love Celeste. Edgar was pretty cool. Sabin was OP and I love his movesets. Loki is really cool. I loved his character and he adds a more comedic element to the story. My favorite light-hearted moments tend to be where the characters banter with each other, especially during battles. Like when Tara used magic in front of Loki and Edgar, their reaction is very cute because they just remain dumbfounded that someone can actually use magic, which is a lost art in this world. Another moment is when the party goes against Altos, a reoccurring gag in the game. He's actually a boss fight, but he just shows up all the time. Anyways, a character named Realm wanted to paint Ultros, and then Ultros rebukes her and reminding her that he is a mean enemy and he will kill her. Just inflating his ego, basically. Then Loki just breaks the fourth wall and hops out of the battle menu to face us, the players, and pretty much narrating the whole thing going on. It was really fun. However, as much as the story focuses on our players and our struggles, we have to address the elephant in the room. Well, more like the clown in the room, which is Kefka, and his laugh lives rent-free in my head. Now, Kefka as a villain is really good. The stuff that this clown does is beyond horrible. It would take more than the fingers I have on both my hands to count the amount of ghastly thing this guy has done. Kefka has no tragic backstory, he's just pure evil. Now, I don't have a problem with villains having tragic backstories, especially if it makes sense within the story, but Kefka being the way he is, it just makes sense because he's just that crazy. I don't even think any tragic backstory will get anybody to feel 1 ounce of sympathy for this clown. If anything, after playing this game, I could officially say that he is the greatest villain of all time. So I want to take a second to compare Kefka with Sephiroth. Kefka is a bit scarier because he has no motive or drive or anything that he wants to do. He just wants to destroy the world. That's it. He is just pure evil incarnate. Whereas Sephiroth is more of a character than Kefka. He has wants, needs, and even though he wants to destroy the world as well, he has his motives and it's kind of sympathetic at some points. And I feel like they went for that pure evil in 6 and then they wanted to go a more sympathetic route with their villains in 7, which I find really interesting. But that's besides the point. If you really think about it, Kefka stands as a chilling reminder of the depths in which human nature can sink. Alright, so in this part I'm going to go into spoilers, so if you haven't played the game, then please go to the timestamp that I have here. Kefka is the main reason why the story transitions into Act 2. He pretty much fulfills his goal by ascending into godhood and causing unadulterated destruction. Oh, and he manages to crack a whole continent in half. Funny enough, the new era we are put in is called the World of Ruin. This separation leads to a series of individual character quests where players must reassemble the whole group, the world is in disarray, and many of the characters face personal challenges and trials. This phase of the game is characterized by a sense of hopelessness and despair. Now, I kept this portion vague because I want you, the viewer, to experience this part of the game for yourself. So that is why I leave the floor open to you to try it out. If you haven't, this game came out in 1994, so most of you have played it, right? Right? I mean, if you're at this point, you've played it. Okay. Now, I do want to talk about one specific scene, and that starts with Celeste because the world is in ruin, everyone is scattered, so you start off with Celeste. She and her father figure Sid are barely hanging on, and then there's this portion where Celeste is wondering where is everybody, and then Sid implies, well, not implies, he kind of just straight up says it, that a lot of these people were so deep into despair that they, jumped off a cliff. And that really, wow, that was just a big wow. And it really sets the tone for the second half because everything is just going really, really badly. The story is fantastic and impactful. The emotional cutscenes really hit emotionally, and I can't help but be impressed that they pulled all those off in 1994. I know I spent a lot of time in the story because it's a good story, but it's time to get on to the gameplay. Final Fantasy VI offers players a gameplay experience that has stood the test of time. Rooted in traditional turn-based RPG mechanics, the game introduces players to the active time battle, or ATB for short, where strategy and quick decision making are essential. This system imbues battles with a sense of urgency, requiring players to think on their feet and choose actions wisely. With a diverse cast of characters, each imbued with their unique abilities, for example, Loki could steal, Edgar could use tools, Sabin can do martial arts, Cyan can do cool samurai attacks, Dizer does this cool little gambling minigame sort of thing, and Realm could pay enemies to attack that enemy. So you are really encouraged to experiment with your party. Now, there are some portions in this game where your party is separated or you have to divide your party into different teams. Now, this was a bit hard for me because I usually stick to my core party members and I rarely experiment because if I like a character, I just keep them in my party. But with Final Fantasy VI, it really got me out of my comfort zone because there are moments where the party separates due to story reasons and you gotta make do with what you have. A good example of this is when I was escaping Vector. Everything was all good, Celeste was my main healer, but then out of nowhere in the middle of the scenario, Celeste, due to story reasons, is not in the party anymore. And that was bad because she's my only healer, and what makes it worse was there was an onslaught of boss battles, one after another after another. It was chaotic. I was out of potions and none of my other party members knew a healing spell. I was basically between a rock and a hard place. I eventually got out due to old school grinding and the magic system. Ah, yes. You, my dude. All of this to say that Final Fantasy VI makes you get out of your comfort zone. I mean, after that whole fiasco, I made sure that every character has the ability to do healing magic. Whether it be Cure, Cura, or Curaga, every character needs to know at least one. And that brings us nicely to the magic system. A cornerstone of Final Fantasy VI's gameplay lie within the Espers and the magic system. Characters can summon these powerful entities known as Espers, which grant them access to a wide array of magic spells and abilities. By equipping these Espers, characters can learn and master new skills, allowing for customization to suit your individual playstyle. I really love the magic system in this game. It's kind of OP if you really think about it, but I love how each character could have the ability to learn any spell they want. Like I was mentioning before, everybody in my party knew some kind of healing spell. And on top of that, there's very strong spells as well. And it doesn't require the character to really do anything. You just equip the Esper that teaches that skill, and as you go on and grind, they eventually learn that magic. But you do have to find these Espers. Some are given to you through the story, but others you gotta explore the overworld. Oh, and pro tip here, get the Esper who teaches Ultima, because that spell is really OP. Like, it got me through the last boss fight kind of OP. Now, I did have a few gripes with the gameplay. The first one being that the ATP mechanic got me in a bit of a panic sometimes, where I was just looking at the menu, so I didn't really focus on the action that was in front of me. I was just looking down at the menu most of the time. If I were to compare it to something, it would be like watching an anime with English sub instead of dub, and you kind of get that cross-eyed feeling because you're trying to focus on what they're saying and the action and the animation. It could kind of be, a little bit crazy. And keep in mind, I was streaming this as well. Now there's these two features in the menu called active mode and wait mode. I had to put it on wait mode just to give me enough time to breathe and execute my attacks. Now just because I put it on wait mode, you still have to hustle. You're gonna have to have your cures going, your attacks going. So just because it's on wait mode doesn't mean it's, easy or anything. And that takes me to my next gripe, and that is the menu hopping. Woo, a lot of menu hopping. There is a menu for everything in this game. It's one of those moments where I really appreciate modern era gaming because the menus are nice and streamlined, making navigating it more easier. But man, with Final Fantasy VI, the ugly menus reared its ugly head. For example, one of my party members died, so I went to go get a Phoenix down to revive them. But it's so hard to navigate the items menu, where I really had to hunt for that Phoenix down because there's just so much stuff. And that goes for potions, elixirs, and the cures for the many status elements that you will receive throughout this game. So when you learn magic, it gets more easier. Now I will say the organization of these spells really made it confusing when I was menu hopping, because if a character knows a lot of spells, they're gonna see a lot of spells. I oftentimes found myself just executing the wrong spell because I just got confused in the menu. Alright, so to be fair though, there is a function where you can sort your items, and I didn't even know that until after I finished the game. It would have come in handy if I knew it sooner, but the case still stands. The menus are just horrendous. Another aspect of the gameplay is the exploration. In Final Fantasy VI, players navigate a diverse world map with varied terrains, cities, dungeons, and hidden areas. This expansive world invites players to uncover secrets, discover treasures, and engage with a host of NPCs. Now this is important. You're going to want to talk to the NPCs because this game does not hold your hand when it comes to telling you where to go in the story, and a lot of the NPCs kind of guide you to where you have to go. And throughout the game, it gets easier and easier to traverse the world. For example, you start off walking and maybe a chocobo, but then in the middle you get an airship that literally takes you anywhere you want. Funny enough, the chapter where we get the airship is one of my favorite chapters in the game, and that is the Opera House. Not only is the whole moment rendered 3D for the Pixel Remaster Edition, it was a really fantastic part of the game. There was a boss battle, there was singing, there was reading lines, intrigue, romance, all that good stuff in one. For retro games, Final Fantasy VI is very forgiving. When you die, you essentially go where you last saved. In the outer world, you can save whenever you want, but once you go into a dungeon, a scenario, or even a town, I'm looking at you, Zuzu Town, you have to look for the dedicated save points. Now you could quick save, which is kind of a fix, just know you're gonna want to save a lot. In conclusion, Final Fantasy VI's gameplay experience is a testament to the enduring appeal of traditional RPG mechanics. Now all in all, I really did like the gameplay. It wasn't anything too extreme and complex, and it wasn't something very simple and boring. And it was something very appealing to me as someone who does not like retro RPGs and its outdated mechanics. Final thoughts about the game: I love the pixel animation, they're really clean, but I did not like how in the Pixel Remaster, they don't have the portraits of the character. You kind of have to look in the menu for that. The music is amazing. I mean, most Square Enix music is amazing, but 6, they really went all out. Terra's theme is just so beautiful. It really fits her, actually. Now, I never went to school for music theory or anything like that, so I can't tell you from beat to beat how it encapsulates her character, but I just know, as someone who likes music, that it feels like Terra. Another track that I really love was Dancing Mad. It's usually used when Kefka's on the scene and he's doing his thing. So when you hear that, there's evil afoot. Oh, and another thing, I was actually playing 6 while playing 16. at the same time, which I do not recommend, but you could obviously see the difference between the two of them. In Final Fantasy VI, you have a whole host of characters in your party, while 16, you only have like 1 or 2. It just feels very depressing basically. And 6 is a testament to striking a balance between having fun and the doom and gloom, because there is bad stuff that happens in 6, like really messed up stuff. But 6 had those moments of respite and relaxing with the crew, getting to know your party. Now I'm not here to just bash 16, it did a lot of great things, but I'm just saying comparison wise, 6 is a good testament to the whole Final Fantasy adventure, while 16 is just like depression, I guess. Well, anyways, I just feel like Final Fantasy VI really handled the themes really well, and 16 didn't. In conclusion, Final Fantasy VI was an adventure of a lifetime, and I'm so glad I got to play it and stream it with you guys. If you like this review, then hit that like button, I would appreciate it. And if you love my channel and would love to see more RPG goodness, then I can't do it when I'm my mic. Then smack that subscribe button for me. Tell me in the comments down below, what is your favorite Final Fantasy game? Did you enjoy Final Fantasy VI? Did you get it when it came out? Or you played it like me later on? I hope you guys have a beautiful rest of the day, and as always, I can't do it with this mic. Okay. And as always, play a good game. Peace, peace!